Hey, you guys, it's Mrs. Cervantes.
And Mrs. Pilati.
And together we're Mrs. Servati.
And we just recorded this whole video and there was no sound. So here we are again.
We're doing it again. Hopefully you can hear us. Okay, so we're on 9-2, area of circles. We're moving on. So we did area of circumference yesterday, which was the distance around the circle. Today we're doing the area, so the inside of the circle. Sometimes I explain it to my kids as like a fence around a yard. If your yard is circular, the inside is how much grass you need, and that's your area, and your circumference is how much fence you need around the outside.
Now remember, circumference and area are both in regards to two-dimensional shapes. There's no pop, just flat, right? So it's the space that occupies the inside.
Everybody hear that? Two-dimensional.
Now the other thing we want you guys to understand is that this is only the beginning of formulas. So we cover a lot of formulas, not in only 7th grade, but then those 7-8 students who are rolling into 8th grade content here after this. It is very important that you write this formula every time you solve it, so it becomes rote memorization. You don't have to think about it when you do it.
Yeah, some of you guys are still writing or doing the math in your head and just writing the answer, which is they struggled with when they were writing the formula C equals today, because when they had C and not one of the other measurements, then they didn't know what to do. Right. So write your formula out. Okay, our writing is going to stink because we're writing with our finger again because the pen and the board are broken.
We're having serious issues today.
I know. So look at your formula. Radius. Radius is from the center of the circle to the outside edge of the circle, anywhere around that whole circle, from the center touching to the side of the circle. Okay, your formula is A equals pi times radius squared. Now, don't get confused. Area is pi times radius squared is not radius times 2. It's radius times radius. It's radius to the power of 2. And like Miss Pilati pointed out, don't get confused. They could give you your diameter, but in order to do this formula, you need to find your radius. So your diameter divided by 2 equals your radius. Once you have your radius, then you times it by yourself, Times it by itself to get that, okay? All right, looking at the first example, Ms. Pilati is going to do one with just computations.
Super easy. So if you guys look at this, a biscuit recipe calls for the dough to be rolled out and circles to be cut from the dough. The biscuit cutter has a radius of 4. Find the area of the top of the biscuit once it is cut. So again, pretend like that formula is not given to you and set it up every time. Because not only is that A going to indicate area, but it's going to be different than circumference, right? We are not using calculators for this, so I'm going to use a 3.14. Radius is given to us of 4, right? So I write it out 4 times 4. That's the most common mistake, as you guys can probably imagine, is that people want to multiply 4 times 2 and not square it. So if you write it out, I know some of you are like, God, she makes us write everything out. It's going to be more effective so that you don't make that simple mistake. Commutative property multiplication says you can multiply in any order. So I'm going to take care of these 4s because I know those off the top of my head, right? And then I'm going to go over here to do the 3.14 times the 16. I get 8. That's supposed to be a 4, by the way. That's another 8. X 4, 1, 3. You guys know when I multiply, talk to myself. Here I go. Okay. I'm going to identify the 2 numbers after the variable or after the decimal. So my answer is 50.24. And we are talking in centimeters squared. So remember, that's our 2-dimensional right here. That area occupies is 50.24 centimeters. Again, the area of a 2-dimensional is the inside. I think there was something else I said. But again, you guys can see that even I wrote everything out. It didn't take me any extra time to do so. And I got my number right.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
Go.
Okay, bye. All right, so let's look at the last 2 little examples. They're just reflection questions, because really doing the problem that Miss Pilati just did is plugging in chugging, like we call it with you guys. All right, so let's look at the reflection questions. So compare finding the area of a circle when you're given the radius with finding the area when you're given a diameter. Okay, so if I'm given the formula and I know the area of a circle is pi r squared, and they give me the radius, and then over here on another one they give me the diameter. If they give me the radius, I'm going to give you guys an example. If they give me the radius of 2, then I plug in A equals 3.14 times 2 squared, right? My radius is 2. All I have to do is square the 2 and then times it by 3.14. If they give me the diameter, and let's say my diameter is 10, I have to find my radius first in order to find the area. So I've got to divide the diameter by 2 to get my radius of 5. So that gives me a radius of 5. Now I can use my formula, a equals pi times what's my radius, 5 squared. Again, don't do 5 times 2. It's 5 times 5 is 25 times 3.14. So compare radius, you can just plug it into your formula and use it. If they give you diameter when you're trying to find area of a circle, you have to cut it in half first to find your radius, okay? Number 3, why do you evaluate the power in the equation before multiplying by pi? Plain and simple, what we've talked about all year, PEMDAS, order of operations. So if I'm looking at the formula a equals pi r squared, when you're looking at that, we're always looking and evaluating based on order of operations. You have an exponent. So parentheses, you don't have any. Exponent, yes, you do. So you do the r squared first. Okay, and that's the only reason why you're evaluating the power first. At that point, you're just multiplying by pi. Okay. All right. I think you guys just have one your turn answer tonight. Make sure you're showing your work for this. A lot of you are just doing some of the numbers in your head, figuring it out. But then it becomes a problem when you haven't written, like today we did the circumference. And in some of the problems, they do it backwards. They give you the circumference and they want you to find the diameter. If you were not writing out your problem, C equals pi times D, or pi 2 pi r, then you were having trouble figuring out what the diameter was, okay? So make sure you're writing it out, A equals tonight, and then write your formula and do plug and chug. All right, you guys, have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow.